Springtime is in full swing. The weather is warming up, the blossoms are blooming, and the sounds of lawnmowers and tractors are going on in the distance. If you are in need of a new tractor for that big project this year, or just an upgrade on your lawnmower, don't forget to stop by the hobby tractor stores in Roosevelt or Pleasant Grove while they still have their spring financing programs going on. Tell them about your project this year. They will pair you up with the perfect machine to get the job done. And don't forget to remind them that Scott and Hillary from Surviving Life's Pickles sent you in.
This episode is brought to you from the Sensei Pickle Jar Studios, where they teach you how to use all that money you have saved in your pickle jar over the years towards your financial goals created through the Sensei Financial Roadmap tool. Click on the link in the podcast description to learn more.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to our next episode of Surviving Life's Pickles. I'm Scott Martin, your host, and today have a special guest from Canada, Adrian. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Uh, Episode today, just to give everybody a little context, is part of our Numb series, which is really focusing on men's mental health. But today is a very special episode where we're going to really focus on mental health in the construction industry. It really goes along with our topic because over 70% of construction industry workers are male, but there are the females in there too that this information is going to be really valuable and great too as well. So we felt that it was a great opportunity to provide this information as part of this Numb series that we've been talking about. But before we jump into that, Adrian, I know you've listened to a couple episodes, so you kind of see that we usually start off these episodes with a vote of gratitude. Kind of what's on our mind today. What are we grateful for? And if you're okay with it, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Yeah, so I'm actually super grateful to be here today. I think I told you this is one of my first podcasts, so I'm very excited for that. And other than that, I'm just grateful for everything that's falling into place in my life right now. Just the way that everything's been working out for me and the positive influences that I have and the support that I have and everything that's just been coming with the book and the launch. It's just been working out to my benefit, so I'm super grateful for that.
It's awesome. Well, and I mean, kind of to jump on that, I'm really grateful to have you on the show today. I've been looking forward to this episode since we kind of talked, our first discussion a little while ago. And for you and me both, this is a very dear subject to our hearts because we are in this industry. This is a big part of what we're doing. We see that there's a need that needs to be filled and some change that needs to be happened. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to discuss what you're doing up in your area in North America and what I'm doing here in my side of the world and how we're going to kind of try to combine forces here and kind of attack this from two different angles. So I'm excited and very, very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you.
Also, I
So,
appreciate it, Scott.
well, as we jump in, everybody, just a little background. So Adrian here has a book that is coming out, will be available everywhere May 3rd, and it is called Beneath the Hard Hat. And this book focuses on mental health, mental illness in the construction industry. That's a pretty good overview. Is that not, Adrian?
Yeah, so the beginning of the book really goes into the tough it out mentality, and the stigma behind speaking up in regards to mental health in the construction industry, and then the personal stories. There's about 11 personal stories of other individuals. Some of them are a little bit on the bullying and harassment side. Some of them are on the mental health side. Different experiences for different people. There's some superintendents in there that witnessed a fatality on site that affected their mental health. There's also, people that had family members pass away that affected their mental health. And then there's also some individuals that were just dealing with very stressful situations at work and how they handled it. And most important, what these stories really go into is what these people are feeling and what they're going through. Because we hear these different stories all the time. Somebody tells you a story of something that happened at work and you don't really understand what that individual was going through. You don't really feel their pain, their struggle. You hear the story and then right away we jump into assumptions or, perceptions and things like that. But to really understand what that individual is going through, that was kind of my goal here.
Yeah. I love it. Well, and that kind of brings up a few statistics that I just wanted to hit really fast as we dive into this. And couple of them is this question is asked a lot, and I want to ask you the question, Adrian, to see if you could get these right off the bat, which I know you've been involved, so you might just not nail these right out of the park right out of the bat. But what are the reasons for psychological hazards in the construction industry? What, in your opinion?
In my own opinion, if it's, I mean, work related, I would talk about the culture on site. I think is a
Yeah,
big one. The culture kind of it leads everything. It leads the morale, the production, everything goes in with the culture. If you have a
yeah,
negative, toxic culture, you're going to have a lot of psychological hazards.
yeah. No, and you nailed part of this. I mean, so really, the when you do the search and you kind of pull this up, working conditions is at the top, and it's because it's such a high demand job. Second is the low control over work task. Like the construction workers don't have that much control. They have to follow whatever they're told, in most situations. And then the next one is right where you hit on. It's the lack of support from the supervisor or coworkers and not the satisfaction that they deserve. At the end of the day, they're just not satisfied with the job. It's just a job to pay the bills.
That's right.
So, couple other things just so everybody has some a little more context. These are American statistics. Adrian is up in Canada right now, but everything definitely correlates. 10.8 million workers last year had substance abuse in some form or function in the US. 15% of those were construction workers. So it's the highest denomination out of the entire group, as far as percentage wise. So I mean, 15%, that's a pretty high number.
Yeah,
And as
here,
far as no, go ahead.
no, here in Canada, I believe the numbers are about 30% of our workforce struggles with addiction or
Okay,
substance
so
use.
you guys are a little bit higher up there then. Okay. And as far as suicides go, in 2023, there were 6,000 construction workers that committed suicide here in the US, compared to the 1,000 work-related deaths. I mean, that is a huge number, and that one's just a very sad statistic that's that high. So
Yeah.
is those kind of similar in Canada as far as that ratio as well?
Yeah, we're looking at about 3 to 1 difference in suicide rates. So the construction workers in Canada are 3 times more likely to suffer in terms of suicide than the average person,
Yeah,
average Canadian.
yeah. Well, and that comes to kind of this last one. And the statistic is 60% of all construction workers over the grace of their time in the industry have some type of mental health breakdown or illness or issue. I mean, 60%, that's a big number.
That's huge.
So, and that's the reason we're here talking today. Adrian, let's we kind of gave everybody a little synopsis of your book there at the first, but let's kind of dive in and let's talk a little bit of history on you. What has your background been? Have you been in the construction industry your whole career? And how has that kind of developed into what you're doing now as far as mental health and the awareness and stuff? So let's get a little history on you.
All right. So I've actually been in construction my whole life. I come from a family of builders. So my stepfather was a senior superintendent at a bird construction, one of the larger companies here in Canada. Traveled all throughout Canada. And I still remember one of the first days that it was the take your kid to work day. And I ended up going to one of his job sites. It was in the middle of nowhere. He was building a hospital at the time. And something just about the project and the site, just everything just interested me right away. I just wanted to be a part of it. Um, and just seeing everything get put together, seeing it grow and become something from nothing is a great experience for me. And I've been lucky enough to actually travel throughout Canada, working on most of the major infrastructure projects here, all throughout Canada. So I worked on most of the hydro dams from Muskrat Falls to um, Gillen, Manitoba, up into Fort St. John. Those are three major hydro dams. I also was on the Canada LNG project, the first LNG project to touch down here in Canada. That was up in Kitimat. And then I also did a bridge up in the Yukon. And now I'm part of the Broadway Subway project. We're doing building the extension for the SkyTrain station here in Lower Mainland Vancouver. And one thing that I noticed throughout my time working was the tough it out culture and the silence that people are facing every single day. even myself, there was a time, one of the major projects I was in Manitoba, where I myself was dealing with something, and just the lack of support, the stigmatization, the labeling that came through with it. I just couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. And then I believe, when I actually pulled somebody aside and started telling them what was happening, they tried to say these type of things don't happen in our industry, and it shocked me, absolutely shocked me to hear that somebody in a position of support and, and authority that has the power to make changes doesn't see what's happening in our industry. So that kind of got me on a little motivational wave to start spreading awareness, bringing it out there, just talking with people, getting to hear their stories, and then sharing those stories. I try
Right.
to I try to support other workers in the workplace as well, in terms of, it's kind of crazier now, because since I wrote the book and everybody's heard about the book, and I've sent some copies of it. There's a lot more people coming up to me now than there ever was before, in terms of just what they're going through, and how they can handle it and what their options are. So the last probably year now, I've been focusing more about the mental health advocacy. Um, Trying to get into different programs. I'm taking numerous training courses from the Canadian Mental Health Association, just to get better, just knowledge and information, on how to handle and talk to people, how to have those hard conversations. I find that that's something that, a lot of companies and supervisors avoid, is the hard conversations that need to be had. And a lot of the problems that happen, in terms of mental health, is that hard conversation is not had. And instead of having the hard conversation, and understanding where the worker's coming from, or where the problem is coming from, and leveling with the worker, the first thing is, assumptions and labeling, and this guy's got a mental disease or a mental illness.
Right. Well, and it comes up to you, like you said, this tough it out mentality, right? I mean, if you're a supervisor in the construction industry, most of them are like, you know what, you need to suck it up. Do your job, leave it at the door. I don't know how many times I hear it, because I'm on the mining side here, and I hear, once you get to the gate of the mine, you leave all your personal problems at the gate. You go into work, and then you can pick them up on the way back. And that's just actually impossible. Like, you cannot leave part of you behind. Otherwise, you're not going to be a complete person and be able to operate the way you want to. And it's really frustrating when I hear that itself.
And that's what I'm trying to get organizations to see, is that physical safety and mental health go hand in hand. How can you be physically safe if you're not there clearly thinking, focusing on your task, avoiding hazards, safing out work areas? If you can't focus because you're dealing with something personal, if you're dealing with either financial stress, a loss of a loved one, anything that dramatically impacts an individual, you can't just put that aside and then go to work
Right.
all day.
Right. Well, and if you do, you will just not be present.
That's right.
You will just be a physical body there. And I hear this term a lot lately too, because in our industry, at least here, we are running into a shortage of workers, because there's just not trained construction workers out there now. Everybody wants to go into the tech world. And so they're just like, I just need warm bodies. Well, then
That's right.
why are we even doing what we're doing? Because if you put somebody in there that's just a warm body, as they say, they're either going to hurt themselves, or they're going to hurt somebody else on the job site, because they're not engaged. They're not prepared.
And that's what I see with the bigger organizations, from the small owned family businesses going into the bigger organizations, is that it becomes a numbers game. It becomes a numbers game, hours, production, bodies on the ground. Um, but we're not machines. We're humans.
Right.
And like, you look at any piece of equipment on site, you have your routine maintenance checks, right? You get your so many hours, you're getting a service done, oil change, fluid change. What about the human person? We need breaks too. We're not even a
Right.
machine. What happens when we break down?
Well, and I love this. This happens in Europe and in South America. They take these 2-hour lunch breaks every day to help recharge in the middle of the day. I think that's absolutely wonderful. Maybe they don't have some of the safest working environments down there, but at the same time, they're engaging a little bit more into the mental health of their people, because they're giving them the breaks in the middle of the day. taking the time to take themselves out of the situation and relax. And I think that's a huge part of what they're doing in those countries right now is, it's just part of their culture.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised to see that when you're looking at, when you're trying to get information and videos about mental health, a lot of it's coming from the UK. A
Right.
lot of it's coming from Europe because they had a big epidemic of suicide. I think it was up to 700 a day at one point. And you look at the numbers there, that's insane. And so it's very, it's nice to see that there's so many different people from that side, now raising the awareness and speaking up. Because when I look at videos through YouTube or TikTok or Facebook, the majority of them that are speaking about mental health, I mean, not all of them, I mean, they're everywhere throughout the world, but the majority of them are coming from Europe, from UK,
They are.
London.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of information from what they've already kind of found out, and we're just a little bit behind the eight ball on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of brings up the thing is if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be fine making time for your illness. And that goes on your mental and physical because they go hand in hand together. And we've talked about it here on our show multiple times that you can't have a great physical health routine if you don't have a mental health routine. That you just can't. You have to be mentally strong to be able to do the physical side. And that is lacking, like you're saying. Yeah, everybody's just worried that you're fit for duty physically, but they're not worried about what's going on in your head.
And that's right. And then you get things like absenteeism, right? That increases over time. And it's not that the person's like missing shifts. There's something going on where, like, I know this for myself. Like like I said, back in Manitoba when I was working on the project in Gillum, I dealt with some mental health issues, and I was dealing with a lot of stress. I was under a lot of pressure. I had a family member pass away, and it all kind of came at once. And it wasn't that I didn't want to go to work. I just I lost all motivation to even get out of bed.
Right. Because you need that time. You have to process these things in your life. Sometimes you can process them by going to work if you have the right culture.
That's
But
right.
if you don't, you need to take the time. And there is a statistic in 2023 here in the US, 200 million workdays were lost due to mental health reasons in 2023. That's a big number, especially if people are about production and numbers and hours. Take
Yeah.
that number and look at it.
Absenteeism causes billions of dollars lost each year in North America,
Right.
just on
So
lost time.
in your eyes, what are a couple things that we can take as an industry, take a step back for a second, look at the situation in our own business, our own companies, and do a little evaluation? What would be some questions you would throw out there that people need to start asking if they're an employee, if they're a supervisor, you know, to start gaining some knowledge about what's going on?
On their site, it's just a simple check-in. If you know your workers, then you know your site, and that's why I'm very big on empathetic leadership, and trying to incorporate empathetic leadership into the different organizations that I'm with. Because, like, when I was a foreman, I got to know every member on my crew, and when you build a personal relationship with your crew and your workers, they'll open up to you. You'll get to hear their side. You'll get to hear the things that they're going through. And you also have to share yourself. You have to share. You have to become vulnerable. You have to let them see that you're human as well. Like, we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. So as a supervisor, if you want your workers to come forward to you with if they're dealing with something or struggling with something, you have to show them that you're human as well. You're not
Right.
perfect. Let your
Well,
guard down.
it's leading. It's that example. And I have a huge example of that. I currently have a really good friend of mine, also been a customer for a lot of years, and he leads his crew that way. He didn't used to, but he was dealing with some personal problems this year. And he sat all of his foremen and superintendents underneath of him down and said, "Look, I'm going through this, this, and this at home. I apologize that I haven't been completely here, but I need to let you guys know I'm going through this so that you can understand that, I might need a little help or I might need a little grace, during this time as I'm working through it. And I would appreciate you guys maybe stepping up a little bit and helping me out as I'm dealing with this." And he had that very open conversation with them. And it changed the whole view of what those guys then looked at him, because they were all kind of getting frustrated with him because of, he was being short tempered and different things. And so he decided to have that meeting. And that right there has changed the entire morale of their whole crew.
The amount of trust that you gain in somebody when they open up like that is huge. Like I dealt with a similar situation where I had a supervisor do the same thing, and the crew, like when we were done that conversation, the crew was kind of talking and got together, and they couldn't believe that he opened up like that. And the first thing that came is that I think one of the guys said, he's like, "Hey, we're all human. We all go through shit, right?" And we ended up building so much more trust and just being able to feel comfortable walking up to that individual now and speaking about any problem.
Yeah. Because once you kind of open that door of vulnerability and being authentic with the people you work with, that trust level, like you said, skyrockets. But then it also gives them the okay. It gives them permission, in my opinion, to now be vulnerable back.
That's
Now
right.
they feel like it's okay.
And you're breaking the stigma is what you're doing, right? Because when you're going into a construction world, we all know it. It's a tough it out mentality. Don't talk about your problems. Keep it at the gate, like you said. And that's what people go into believing, right? So when something happens, if you see another individual that maybe was having a problem and he spoke up, and then you've seen that individual get shut down, do you think anybody else on your site is going to speak up?
Right.
No, they
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah.
They
It
won't.
instantly puts that door, closes that door. Like, nope.
Closes
He
that
tried to
door. Yeah.
talk to him. Yeah.
And
Oh,
and not only does it close the door, but it prevents anybody else to ever speak up again because they're scared. They're fearful of what's going to happen to them. And I've watched that happen. I was working on one of the projects, and we did have a little bit of a toxic environment, and there was a worker that was really suffering. And the first thing he did, he was to go up to his superintendent, and he said, I'm dealing with some mental health, and I don't know how to handle it right now. 2 days later, he got laid off.
yeah.
What did that do for the crew? Nobody spoke about their problems.
Yeah. It scares
Everybody
them.
was perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Everything's perfect. But the absenteeism was there, guys. 4 or 5 guys missing every other day. I mean, it spoke for itself.
Yeah, but it's that leading in fear, and I think you do talk a little bit about that in your book. Is leading with fear is not, the way to go. It just makes the morale just hit the toilet really quick.
Yes, yes. And
So,
like the education is what we're missing, I believe. The knowledge, like you say, like we're
right.
talking about this, we're in the scene, so we're hearing about all this different things. But when you're a supervisor and you're going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home, and if that's not something that you're into, you're not going to know, what empathetic leadership is. You're not going to know what the difference between mental health, mental illness, and mental disease is. And that creates problems all in itself because now when somebody speaks up, your perception is going to start to think the worst.
Right.
And that's where mislabeling happens.
Well, and you said it right there is education. And for those who have been listening, I've shared a little, my whole story here on our show about my life in the past couple of years, especially what's going on. But that right there is the reason I am doing what I'm doing now, Adrian, is because of that education piece. When I had my complete mental breakdown last year, and I went to my supervisor, I went to HR and I talked to them, they were good. Don't get me wrong. They did the very best they could in the situation, but it was something they had never dealt with before on this level. It was a very unique situation that I was going through because I had, some substance, I had some loss, I had a very nasty medical diagnosis. All these things were intertwined together that put me in the mental state I was in. And they just didn't know how to handle it. So they did the best they could with the knowledge they had. That opened my eyes of, okay, if I got treated this way, no fault to anybody, it's just the best they could do, then there's a lack. There needs to be a change. And that's when this whole journey really started for me on the employee side and the education, the construction is education. And that's why I've gone out and got some of my certifications that I'm going to school to get my stuff because I'm trying to help these companies now implement programs, implement mental health discussions in their daily toolbox safety meetings, because you should check in with all of your supers and all of your foremen and all of your ground guys and everybody involved in the project on a daily or multiple times a day. And it's just they don't know how. Like
That's
you
right.
said, they don't
That's right.
understand.
They mean well. They mean well. They want to do the best for you. They were trying to support you, but they just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. They don't know how to engage. And the typical response has been, well, it's a personal problem. They need to deal with it personally. And that was the HR way of getting out of the situation.
Now, let me
Again,
ask you a question. When all this happened to you, um, was there ever a moment where you felt that you were being treated differently because of this
oh,
and kind of
100%.
singled out?
I mean, 100%. I mean, ultimately, and this is my opinion, and I know I have ex coworkers and different people that listen to this, but in my opinion, it's the reason I'm no longer working there
Mm.
is because of what happened. Because in a sense, I got I don't want to use the word target painted on my back, but I was put in a different category than everybody else because I had a problem.
Do you think that there was conversations that needed to be had but were avoided?
Very much so,
And
multiple
that's why
times.
that's where I get into it is that there's the hard conversations. You have to have
Right.
those hard conversations. You got to treat the individual as a human being, not as somebody different or somebody that's broken, because
Yeah.
that's just going to break them more.
Well, so let brings up a question for me then. You've been a supervisor. You've also just been a worker, and you've done both roles. Um, I want to put your supervisor hat on for a minute.
Okay.
And if you see an employee that is struggling, and you know that their work performance is slacking, and you're kind of curious that maybe they do have something going on at home or something, how would you approach that? How would old Adrian approach that versus new Adrian now approach it? What would that look like differently with what you know?
All right. Well, let's call it Mike. So Mike's
Okay.
missing shifts. He's be showing up late every day or every other day. He's missing some shifts. So the bad Adrian would just call him right out. What are you doing? What's going on? You're blowing shifts. Like you keep this up, you're gonna get a write up, right? And
Okay.
that's not a very good way of approaching things. And that's how a lot of the times it's done. It's like, oh, you missed 3 days. Come into the office. We're gonna give you a write up. No conversation as to why. No conversation as to what happened. Um, Thinking about it now, I would start off by recognizing something that this individual has been doing positively for the last little bit. Like his work or perform, or let's say his something that he did on a task or something that he executed a little bit better. First, recognize that about him, and then just say, Mike, hey, listen. So I noticed that you've been coming in late a few days now. Is there something going on at home? Is there something that you want to talk to me about? Right, and give him that opportunity. And he's not gonna. That doesn't mean that he's gonna talk to you right away, but you've
Right.
planted a seed in his head that if anything were to continue, or if let's say he continues to miss shifts, now he's gonna recognize that he might get in trouble. Now he will speak up. He might speak up.
Right. Well, and
Right.
you gave him that authority, and you opened the door for, hey, he knows I'm struggling. So if something happens, I can go to him and say, hey, I'm very sorry this happened.
Yeah.
But because of this going on, I feel like that was influencing my decisions not in the correct way. I mean, it kind of does. It gives him that permission again.
Yeah. And another thing that I would probably do is I wouldn't just leave it at a one and done. Like, it's not a one and done conversation. Like you said,
Correct.
daily check-ins. If you see somebody struggling, you don't know what they're going through and you don't know how serious it could be. And that daily check-in might be the only thing that might keep them going. They might
Right.
say, yeah, it's okay, but at least they know that somebody out there cares because they're asking a question, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they're alone. Maybe they're
Yeah.
just hesitant to speak up, but at least that there's still somebody that's asking the question, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? What's going on?
Yeah.
Right? It gives you that opportunity to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. So let's change the tables now. Let's put you down in just the regular employee and your supervisor to come to me. I want to throw this scenario out first. Is you're just struggling at home. Like you have some family stuff going on and you've been missing work, and the supervisor comes over to you, and I'll be the supervisor here, and I say, hey, Adrian, you're missing work. We don't appreciate you showing up. You got to take your load of the work here. If you don't do it, we're going to have to write you up or even let you go. What do you have to say about that?
See, so like right away, that the way that it's approached, I'm already on alert. My flags are
Right.
already up. What do I say? How do I respond? What am I going to say wrong? Do I say this? Do I say that? Like, I don't know what to say now. No,
Right.
everything's fine. I'm sorry. I'll pick up my game.
Yeah. And that's your response. It's those short answers, right? Because you don't have any leeway. So now we change the tables and we use your approach that you just used of, hey, Adrian, you've been really helping out the guys on this extra stuff that you've been doing over here and showing them skills that you're very good at and they lack. But at the same time, we're starting to notice a little bit of laxity in your attendance, laxity, and when you're showing up and you're leaving early. Is there anything going on that we can help you out with to maybe see if we can correct that?
Yeah, you know what, Scott? I'm currently fighting with my wife. We're looking at a divorce right now. I don't know how to handle it. So I apologize.
Yeah. Seeing right there, I love this little scenario we are able to do because those are real life scenarios that are happening at work.
They are.
But I think everybody can see the difference in the tone and the difference how all of a sudden your guard was let down for a second because it was approached from a different angle. It was approached with caring, with compassion, with that empathy of, hey, I am concerned about you. How can I help?
And that's the biggest thing is just knowing that, like I said, just knowing. Because a lot of the times when somebody's dealing with something, they're dealing with it alone.
Yeah.
And they want to talk to somebody, but they just don't know how. So to have somebody, anybody, ask that initial question, it gives them the chance to open up.
Yeah. So that brings up kind of the option. We talked about we should do daily check-ins at a minimum, a daily check-in. In your job sites, do you guys do a daily safety meeting before everybody starts work?
We do. We do a daily safety meeting and then we go into the field and we do the toolbox.
Okay. So is there any discussions currently with those as, hey, is everybody kind of fit for duty? Is everybody kind of, prepared for the day? Does anybody need to, talk to me on the side? Is any of that happening currently?
No,
Okay.
no. And you
So,
know what? And it's not that they don't want to, it's just nobody's knows how to. I think
right.
I was in the toolbox the other day and the safety guy ended it with, all right, guys, it's a war zone out there, so keep your head on the swivel. And it's like, I'm thinking, man, we're just about to start our day and he's already setting up the scene for a war zone. Like, what am I getting myself into?
Right.
Imagine if you were a new worker and you just started your first day at work and you got the safety guy saying, you're about to enter a war zone, keep your head on swivel. We had incidents yesterday, we had incidents the day before. You're going to be on high alert, wondering what the heck.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to give some options. And this is one thing I kind of want to really dive into for a minute with you today is we all have those safety meetings. We all have those toolbox meetings. From your point of view, what could you do is just, because you're not the safety guy. You are a supervisor currently though, right?
Right
Um,
now?
yes, right now.
No, I'm an equipment operator right
Okay,
now.
so you're equipment operator. That's right. So in your position right now in that toolbox meeting with the other guys standing around, what do you think you could do in your position? And this goes for all these other guys that are in the same position of bringing that awareness up. Are you allowed to speak up in that meeting and say, hey, I just want to make sure and let everybody know I'm doing really good today? Or would it be more of asking the question of how is everybody feeling today?
So for me, I honestly, it's I do this every day, regardless. It's just something that I've just started doing, anyways. It's just checking in with everybody, seeing how they're doing. I try to build relationships with everybody. I believe relationships are the key to accomplishments, and the reason being is that you have to know your crew. Whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a worker, like we spend more time at work than we do with our own families every single day. We are with each other. We need to know who we are. How can you go to work and just work with somebody and not know who they are when you spend so much time together, right? And that's why I believe that building relationships is huge. And whether you're a foreman, whether you're a superintendent, whether you're a worker, foremen and superintendents especially, you should be building relationships with your crew. So that way your crew knows that you're approachable, that they can talk to you, that they can open up to you. Because if you're just the guy that's going around barking orders all day, nobody's going to come talk to you about anything personal.
Right. So, in
So
your point of view, would it be easier if they started the conversation just saying, hey, everybody, today I'm doing really good. I had a great weekend with my wife, kids. We did, some activities. I'm prepared to go to work today. Just want to check in with everybody else and make sure you had the same. Would that be a good approach in your eyes?
I mean, so I had a great, I was on a great project at the Kitimat LNG project, and we had daily mental health conversations every single day during the safety, the toolbox. It was a normal check-in. how's everybody feeling today? Is anybody going through anything they want to speak to me after in private? Right? That was a big question. If anybody wants to, if anybody's going through anything right now and they need to speak to me in private, come see me after the meeting. That was every single day that was said. There was also whenever something happened, let's just say like a major incident or a near fatality or something like that, like because it was a big project, 4,500 guys on site. Anytime a serious incident happened, the whole mental health topic would be brought into the safety meeting. Hey guys, just so you know, we have counselors on site, we have support on site, we have these individuals that are your direct contacts. If you need anything at all, please go see these people. Right away, you were introduced to somebody and you were steered in the right direction, where if you didn't want to talk to your foreman, you had 3 other avenues you can go to.
So they were very forefront in that project, which in my eyes is really how we need to steer this ship. We need to get everybody looking the same way.
Oh yeah, that project. Well, I've never experienced anything like that in terms of support before. I know it's oil and gas, so the safety standard is a little bit higher. But when it came down to leadership, culture was the big one. They wanted a positive culture. And if you were one of those guys that just didn't want to fall in line, then you were gone. It's
Yeah.
just, they wanted to make sure that people wanted to come to work, that they felt comfortable going to work, and they were both physically and mentally okay because they
Oh,
seen it. They seen that mental health goes hand in hand with physical safety.
so you're saying this was a huge project, 4,500 guys. How many incidents did you guys have as far as safety on this project? Just a rough number, during the duration that you knew of.
Oh, there was incidents all the time, but they were very minor.
Okay.
Very,
So
very
no,
minor.
none of the major incidents on this job then.
No, not work wise. I mean, you're in a camp environment, so I mean, there was, in camp there was your overdoses, there was your, things like that, heart attacks,
Right.
stuff that's completely out of the company's control, right?
Right.
But when it came down to the work front, they did everything they could to support the workers, and like I said, it came from the top down. So the project director would actually go into like I knew the project director. Here I am as a laborer on site, and I know the project director because he comes down from his office and he shows up at a toolbox in different locations every single day. He'll be at a toolbox talking to the guys, introducing himself, and they would lead. So from the project director to the general superintendents to the superintendents to the project coordinators, everybody was educated and everybody went through mental health awareness training. As soon as you got to site, you took a two day training in terms of culture, bullying and harassment, mental health, everything. They educated their workforce. They made
Yeah.
sure that not just the supervisors were trained, but your coworkers were too. Because at the end of the day, who's the first person that's going to notice something?
It's the guy next to you.
That's right. And
Yeah.
if he doesn't know what to look for, and that's what the
Yeah.
company believes. So I was very surprised to see that that's the way that they took the approach. And it showed. It showed. The culture was amazing. There was recognition. There was, people showing up, cracking jokes in the morning. Like people would start their own little routines to try to boost morale, and it was because it was acceptable, and the culture was all about building a positive work culture. So it made people want to do other things to make that culture happen.
Yeah. Well, and it shows right there. You said there was no major incidents. So everybody's happy. Everybody's more aware because, they're all on the same page. And that speaks, that's honestly one reason I work for the company I work for now is they're very mental health forward. We are approaching 7 years of no lost time.
Wow.
We are one of the highest scoring in the mining industry in North America right now with that, as far as a service company, which is phenomenal. Like we're
Yeah.
killing it. Everybody wants us on site because we're safe, but because we do talk about these things on a more regular basis than other places that I've been. So I want to go back to the education part of that job. You say you guys did a 2-day course on culture and different things. What type of things did they educate you on as far as on the mental health and the culture? Like, what were they teaching you guys?
So from the culture side of things, that I just use culture as a kind of broad perspective of everything that we go over. But it was empathetic leadership was one of them. The relationships, building relationships, are the key to accomplishments. They kind of have the triangle, the pyramid triangle, showing everything how it lines up, and everything comes down to relationships. If I have a relationship with you, me and you are that much more likely to do things for each other and go out of our way for each other to get the job done faster. right? It's just,
Right.
it's human nature. If I know you and I have a relationship with you, things will get done a little bit better and faster. And not only that, but safer. And you'll also have that relationship where if something's happening or going on, I can talk to you about it because I have that relationship with you. I'm not scared to, hide anything or because it was the thing about Canada LNG was that it was so talked about that it wasn't hidden. It wasn't silence behind it. So if somebody was going through something, they could talk about it. There was a counselor right on site available where, tell your supervisor that you're going through something. He would allow you to leave and go see the counselor for an hour and deal with whatever you had to deal with. If you needed to take half the day, you went back to camp and took half the day, and it was acceptable. You weren't
That's
judged
awesome.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that kind of goes along, and you and me have talked briefly, but I just finished my mental health first aid course. So, now I do have a certification for a mental health crisis responder, and I'm now going through the instructor course. But those are the key points I got from that class is they taught you one, how to listen to your coworker, listen to the people around you, and this just be there. You don't need to put your input in. You don't need to interject. Sometimes they just need to voice what they're going through so they can feel better. The second one they really discuss is how to approach a situation calmly. And that's all about using the correct words, you know, using the correct approach. Those were kind of the two big ones. And then they dive into, how you check in with people on a daily basis, how you help them maybe put a schedule together, how you help them offer them coping skills. But it's really bring that bridge. And I mean, my vision, Adrian, would be in a perfect world, every job site, every um, construction site, every mine, just depend on the size, you might have multiple, but every site would have you have your HR person, which you go to when you have some serious issues. You have your superintendents that are over the job, but between the HR and the superintendent, you have a person who is a certified mental health first aider or responder that they can kind of be that bridge. Hey, I'm struggling. I don't want to go to HR. I don't feel comfortable with my superintendent, but I know this guy is trained and he's here for us. And so I'll go talk to him. And then that guy can be the bridge between, hey, we probably do need to talk to the superintendent depending on the situation, or hey, no, let's go talk to HR. Let me come with you and kind of become their on the shoulder support system right there on site. That's why I would love to see in this industry.
And that's great because not only do you have that person offering the support, but you also have that second person there with you when you go talk to HR, when you go have that meeting with the superintendent. It's not a one-sided or two-sided conversation anymore. You have another individual there, and those people know that you have another individual supporting you. And our industry, it's sad to say, but a lot of the times that's what you need to keep these people in line to make
Right.
sure that they do support you and not try to bury it. So,
Right. Well, and so you work for a union, and I've been involved in unions just a little bit in my career, but I'm curious, as far as union discussions and things, what does that look like from a union perspective? From what you know, is that something maybe the union would start implementing on job sites?
so I'm trying to actually be in conversation with our union right now. I actually experienced and was a part of a situation that happened at the beginning of the project here, where unfortunately the people involved were not educated and skilled in how to handle the situation, and things were brushed under the rug. People were pushed out, things like that. When I wrote my book, there was a couple stories in there, one of them relating to that incident, and I gave it to the union actually. Um, and after reviewing it, the business manager actually ended up putting everybody from the management side and the business agents through mental health awareness training. Just realizing, like, kind of, he's like that. That spoke volumes to me because when you go through the book, there's things in there how this individual went to the union and got shut down. They went to the union here and they got shut down. The union didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to address it. They didn't know how to provide support. And my union, I'm very grateful for because they are taking the initiative. So they're actually there's a vote going on right now, and one of the major key topics on promises is mental health support for the workers. So how that's going to look, I don't know. But like you said, it's not hard to implement such a. We have shop stewards. What's the
Right.
problem with not sending a shop steward in for mental health awareness training? Now you have a shop steward that's supporting the union business, but you also have a steward supporting the company and the workers.
Right. Well, and again, I feel that, yeah, you need to put all your superintendents, you need to put all your foremen and all your supervisors through this training. 100% agree. But I think you need to have somebody else that's a bridge between them because, again, we're all human. We don't get along with everybody all
That's
of the
right.
time. So if we have a third party that we can say, hey, I trust them a little bit more, he'll listen to me. Let me go tell him what's going on, and he can guide me. And that's why I want to use the word guide. They can be a guide of what is the correct steps to go forward, and they can
Mhm.
help that person and be their support next to them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like you hit it on the nail. Like to have that individual in a workplace would be so beneficial to the workers. Just to like you say, to you're not being stigmatized. You have somebody that's educated in what's maybe not what's happening with you personally, but at least can distinguish the difference between a mental disease and a mental health, right? Which a lot of the
Right.
times people don't. Um, and to have be able to as a worker to be able to go to somebody, and like you say, this individual could just be talking to people, getting to know people, going into the toolboxes in the morning and sharing personal stories to give that vulnerability to show that he's human or she's human, right? And that starts off like that. And over time in the course of the project, that individual that you're talking about, people will start to open up to. They
Yes.
will. Yeah,
Yes.
I know you're 100% right on that because I watched it happen.
Well, and I think, I mean, even to start, I mean, your safety people, they're a great resource. They're there to keep everybody safe. And that's what they do. I actually talked to a safety person here a couple weeks ago for a large company here, and he says what he does is he provides training and education to the employees. That is how he views his job. And he said it right there. Okay, well, we need to be training and educating them on all levels to keep them safe.
So right now here in British Columbia, I was just reading a statistic from WorkSafe BC that 70% of the current lost time incidences are mental health related.
Yes.
Not even physical incident, not a physical injury, but mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're starting to classify those two now. Like, I mean, and this is going to start going against construction companies' safety records and numbers because if they start having more and more of these incidents, it's just bringing it to the forefront.
Yes, and like I know right now here in Vancouver, WorkSafe BC is currently rolling out a whole new enforcement policies for companies. So it should be rolling out here as in the next couple of years, where it's really going to hold companies accountable for their culture, for the site that they create, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, they can be held accountable. Because we are putting these people into positions where they're, yes, we're building something, but at the end of the day, you're managing people, you're managing human
Right.
beings, right?
Right.
And if something is causing an individual at work to develop a mental illness, then it doesn't mean push that individual, bring another guy in and continue that same cycle, right? Because that's what's been happening. So I think the policies that are being rolled out is to have a little bit more accountability on your work environment that you're creating as a company and the people that you're employing that are creating and pushing that culture because it can be pushed both ways, positive or negative, right? And just
Right.
because we're hitting timelines and we're losing people, that's not justification.
Well, and you said it, and I know you talk about this in your book as well, is they're promoting people that are very skilled in what they do, but they've never had any of that management training to manage the people. They can go in, they can teach these guys how to do and perform the skill that they're very good at very well. That's what they do. But trying to communicate with these people is a whole different skill that they probably don't possess because let's be honest, construction worker guys, that's just our MO, right? We're good at one thing. And, I'm an electrician. I'm going to go in and I can do this really well. But, oh, you want me to talk to these guys next door? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and it's not like that doesn't mean that he's not suited to be a supervisor. That just means that the company needs to invest a little bit more resources and train him and provide him the tools that he needs to support his workers or he or she
Correct.
needs.
Correct. Yeah. And then again, it brings up the morale. It brings up production. It brings up the trust. Everything starts to become, more symbolic. Everything runs a lot smoother. Our company policy this year, kind of our focus is called go fast, but get there smooth.
Nice.
And to me, that brings up right there. You know what? Let's educate everybody. Let's make sure we're all running in the same direction at the same speed, and we're here picking each other up as we go. Like we can't leave somebody on the side of the road, if we're trying to go past them because they are part of the crew. They're part of the project, and we got to make sure everybody's on in that car together with us, going the same speed.
Yeah, we used to have a saying that your crew is only as strong as your weakest link.
Right. Right. And even now, you say that, and we say it, it's all over the industry. It's always been that way. But I'm just like, okay, well, why are we don't want to, I guess the word is saddle that person, bring that person out, calling them the weakest link. And it's not really the case. It's that person needs more education. So let's make sure we're educating everybody to the same level instead of, oh, he's a supervisor, he gets trained more. No, you know what? Everybody should have the same type of education so that you can all do the job. Somebody might be better with the skill, and that's why he's in charge, but everybody should have the same training to do the job the exact same way.
That's right. And you know what? We do have people that are just a little bit more. I don't say that they're better, but I always use the word experienced. There's individuals that are
Yes,
more experienced than others, and that there's nothing stopping from like I like to when I was a foreman, I like to pair up my guys, strong guy with a less experienced guy, right? Just so they can mentor each other and then build off of each other.
100%.
Develop each other's weaknesses and support each other's strengths.
Well, it's like the apprentice programs, internships in the construction industry is huge. You take a skilled, a journeyman, and you put him with an entry level guy, and they're paired together because they're teaching each other. And I mean, that's how this industry should go. But at the same time, they should be teaching them how to connect on them on a personal level and that mental health level, because again, they're teaching them. And we want, we send our kids to school and we go to college and we want to have a connection with the teacher, because the better connection you have with the teacher, the more you learn. And I think it's the same way on the job. You've got to connect with that person who's instructing you, that person who's leading you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, well, Adrian, I want to pick your brain for a second as we kind of wrap up here. What are 2 to 3 things from your eyes that you want to really push out here again, even if we've talked about it earlier today, that you want to just really drill into people's heads to be more aware of, or to pay attention of, or maybe something to implement as far as in the construction world?
I think the biggest thing is that, like I said, we're all human beings and life is hard and it hits us at different times and stages of our life, right? And we just have to understand that we don't know what other people are going through. We don't understand what people are going through. And when you have a construction site where you have high demand, high pressure, high risk, high turnover, it's not an easy industry to be in. So to have that expectation of workers just coming in and pushing through day in, day out, like we're doing 6 days a week, 10-hour days. People need to see that we need rest, we need breaks, we need support. We need to have support systems in place so when and if something occurs, the company has the ability to help somebody. We're not here to, the companies aren't here to fix the problem. They're here to make sure it doesn't get worse. Right. And the biggest thing that I like to push is the perception and perspective. Right. We all have our own perceptions of how we see things and view things based on our own personal life experiences, but we can't be stuck in that mentality when it comes to mental health. And because the first thing that you're going to do is judge and mislabel an individual. So I really want to push the fact that observing through the other person's lens and trying to be a human and maybe understand what that individual is going through when you're speaking with them, whoever it is, whatever situation it may be.
I like that. Um, Something I want to add to that is don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, you might not know the answer, you might not know how to help the person, but if you don't ask the question first, then who will? If you see somebody struggling and you see it, if you don't ask, who else is going to? Or is the next person just going to push it to the side as well? And the next person to push it to the side as well. So I want to say to take, call to action of ask the question if you see it, speak up. Like in the mining industry, it's every worker has the authority to stop a job if it's not safe. They have stop work available task. It should be the same way with mental health. If you see something going on or you see somebody just doesn't feel like they're quite in it for the day, stop the task and ask the question, and then seek out who can help them from there, depending on what the answer is.
Yes, and you know what, Scott? I think we are starting to head in the right direction. You're starting to see a lot of companies getting behind, the mental health programs and initiating policies and procedures to support workers. Um, so we're getting there slowly, but
Right.
there's still a long, long road ahead.
Yeah, it is. And the American General Contractors Association here in the US, they now accept and recognize the mental health first aid course that I just went through as one of their, well, as far as I know, it's the only one they recognize as a mental health training for construction companies in the US right now. So that's a great step in the right direction. It's putting that awareness out there, which is huge.
Yes, that's awesome.
So, well, before we go, I always like to ask the question, Adrian. We've had some conversations, but what do you have as far as a question for me? Anything that stands out, anything that you want to dive into that you've been thinking about?
Well, you know what? I'm still stuck on this episode that I watched of yours before. And it's something that really stuck with me. I think is going to stick with me for the rest of my life now is that pain recognizes pain, pain sees pain. And I don't know, like coming from an industry like yourself, I'm pretty sure that you as well, if you were to see a scenario where an individual might have been going through some of the same things that you were going through, you would be able to spot that instantly and
Right.
recognize it compared to the average person. But yeah, no, other than that, we're kind of, I know you're doing this whole mental health program here all May, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we're pushing pretty hard. I mean, it'll probably actually go almost all the way through June currently, because we've had a really good response of people who want to be on and want to share their stories, and so it's picked up some really good traction. But I do remember that episode. I can't remember which person said pain recommends pain. I want to say it was the therapist interviewing me. I think it was Brett that was interviewing me that said that phrase. And to that note, as we wrap up, there is a story, and I don't know if I have shared this or not because of all the episodes we've done, but we had a coworker that I was working with that was very much so struggling at the same time I was. I could see it, right? I saw what was going on because I was in the same pain. I was in the same, headspace that they were. So I seen it immediately. Again, pain recognizes pain. So I kind of joined him a little bit in his misery and we kind of, just sorrowed together. But then I realized, somebody needed to probably talk to him about it. And I had mentioned it to supervisors and other people that I worked with. And I just got hey, it's a personal issue. They can deal with it. We don't need to deal with it. They can deal with it as a personal thing. And unfortunately, because nothing was done and nobody's a fault, but it did not end up very well. So it's one of those sad stories that you're like, hey, could I have done more? Could I have reached out? I mean, and I'll be the first one to admit I didn't do anything to help the individual. I just joined him in his pain because I was in the same space, but I recognized it and told everybody. But again, it's hindsight. I know now what to do from that situation. I've actually had other coworkers reach out to me and say thank you because now I've opened their eyes a little bit to what to watch for, so they can be more aware of the things going on around them in case somebody else is struggling. They have some insight now of what to look for, which is great. And so I feel like it's helping. Again, like you said, we're starting to see things change. People are starting to be more aware. And it's by what we're doing right here. It's talking about it. It's being open, sharing it.
And that's one thing that people have to understand is that, and we're talking about workplace, but just to the men and women out there, like it's okay to talk about your problems. You need to talk about it. And I think I've read a book by Dr. Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal, a very great book. It talks about, the mental health crisis in the Western society here. Um, and there's nothing good that comes from suppressing pain and emotion. Absolutely nothing. If anything, it's just going to continue to build until it explodes.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I always tell everybody now, even from my own personal experience, like if you're going through anything, If you're dealing with anything, talk about it. Just go talk about it. Whether it's a
Yep.
counselor, whether it's a therapist, whether it's your parents, somebody that can not judge you, look at it from a neutral position and just listen because
Yeah.
it helps. It helps. It
Yeah.
helps a lot.
Well, and you said something right there that clicked with me, and we'll kind of maybe end towards this is non-judgmental listening. So if you have an issue at work and the only person you feel comfortable with is to come home and talk to your spouse, you can always start, and we started doing this here at our house, is you can start with a conversation of, hey, I just need you to listen for a minute, not at a non-judgmental. I just need to get this off my chest. I don't need any input. I don't need anything back. I just need to be able to voice this out loud so I can feel better about the situation. And so that's one thing people are always scared about. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to talk to somebody because they're going to call me out on this. In one of my support group leader trainings, that's one thing they teach us is to start the conversation of asking them not to be judgmental before you start the conversation. And if they agree to it, then it's easier to talk to them about it and you feel in a safe spot. But if somebody's not comfortable, you know, have the authenticity to say, look, I don't know if I can be judgmental in this situation. Let's find somebody else who is. So I think that's a great way and something for everybody to take away from this is if you need to talk to somebody, you need that safe space, you need that non-judgmental space. Start the conversation by asking the person you feel like you can talk to about it. Can you be non-judgmental with me about this conversation for a minute so I can get this off my chest?
Yeah, and that plants the seed to them right away that, hey, they're opening their eyes right away, knowing that it's serious and that maybe they should be in that neutral position.
Correct. Correct. Well, Adrian, I appreciate the time today. I really hope that what we've shared is going to open some more eyes as it continues to do in the construction industry. I'm going to make sure, and every supervisor, foreman, or construction worker that I am friends with on LinkedIn is going to get this episode sent to them. So I hope that we can we can get some more information out there. But again, everybody, Beneath the Hard Hat comes out May 3rd of this year. I highly recommend everybody picking up a copy. I have personally listened to this book twice now. It has amazing stories, amazing information, and it really kind of opens your eyes to what's going on behind the scenes in the construction industry so we can start making a change. Adrian, anything else you want to hit up? I know people can follow you on LinkedIn. You have stuff great that you're posting all the time that way. Is there anywhere else that people can look for you or find information about what you're doing?
I got a TikTok channel at Beneath the Hard Hat as well, just kind of doing some motivational posts there on a daily basis, just kind of boost the morale for different viewers. But no, I'm excited for the book. I appreciate your time, and I thank you for letting me share here today. And you know what? This is a topic that we could literally sit here every day and spend hours on, and still not get to the bottom of it. So I love
Yeah.
talking about it. I love spreading the awareness, and thank you for what you're doing because you're the one that's kind of leading the way there with raising that awareness and bringing people on the show and getting them to open up. So thank you and good job on that.
No, I appreciate it. We're just trying to help the community, one person at a time. So, Adrian, we'll stay in touch, but I'll probably reach out to you in a couple months. I want to check back in and maybe hop on here again, see how the book's doing, see what things have been implemented, and getting some feedback after it's been out there. And I'll keep you in the loop as well, as because I am going to be passing a few of your books out here, to construction companies to bring some awareness. So we'll stay in touch on that way for sure. So
Awesome, Scott. Thank you. I
awesome.
appreciate it.
All right.
And yeah, take care.
Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in. This has been a great episode here on Surviving Life's Pickles. Again, we couldn't do it without your support. Please tune in, check out the website, share these episodes. And again, if you like what you hear, leave us a comment on the platform you're listening on. Those comments help us with our ratings, helps bring us up, helps put us in more people's ears. So again, everybody, thank you again, and we will see you next episode. Hey, everybody. Scott here. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it with Adrian. This information is dear to my heart and very dear to Adrian's heart. We want to make a difference in the construction industry, and we hope this information is just the start. If you have not picked up your copy yet, because you just heard the episode, as soon as you finish this, hop on Amazon and order your book, Beneath the Hard Hat. It comes out on May 3rd. It will change your view on mental health in the industry. It'll bring personal experiences to you that you can relate. If you're in the industry, pass it on to a coworker. If you're in the industry, pass it on to your supervisor, pass it on to your HR person. This book will truly make a difference. And if you enjoy everything in this book and you want to make a difference, give me a shout out, reach out to us on the website to schedule a time to talk about bringing training to your company. Mental health first aid is an amazing tool that you can bring to your company to have a mental health first aid responder, just like you have a normal first responder on the job site. They can help be that person in between, be that person to support you, be that person that you feel comfortable with. They can be that bridge to help you feel better and help you feel more comfortable about sharing what's going on so that you can continue to work and have the support that you need when you're going through life struggles. We're here for you. We are excited to see the change that is coming in the construction industry. We hope this is the start of something amazing. We want to be part of it with you. We want to help you guys grow. We want to help you guys be safe. We want to help the industry change and have a better focus on the workers, the employees, and the job site and everything that goes on there when it comes to mental health. Because a strong mental person and a physically strong person are a much better employee than somebody who is struggling that doesn't feel comfortable reaching out. So let's change the stigma. Let's make a difference. Reach out to us today. And thank you again for tuning into this episode. Share it with somebody that needs to hear this message. And again, don't forget, grab your book of Beneath the Hard Hat. You won't regret it. Thank you, guys.